Happy Tuesday. Happy 11-11 time. You know what that means. It's time for a little stretching and strengthening. As usual, I'm here to keep that agreement with myself and invite you to join me if you feel like it, to whatever degree you feel like it. I encourage you to at least take a couple deep breaths and do some letting go of stresses. That almost rhymes, so you know it's almost true. It's snowy and cold out there. It's, the sun's trying to come out and make a big mess of things. But for right now, it's just kind of quiet and snowy. It's kind of nice. I think a big part of the country is in that state, so a lot of us are in that together. I'm grateful for my heater in here, and I'm going to be moving it around a little closer to me. Feeling pretty good. I'm 50 now. Everything's changed. I just care a little bit less about everybody else's opinion. I thought that I already didn't care about your opinion, but turns out I care even less now. And even more about my own opinion. So it all balances out. All works out in the wash, as they say. I'm going to take a nice forward bend. First, I'm going to take a breath and just root myself into the center of the earth, bring my attention into the bottoms of my feet, hang myself from the center of the sky, and then making sure not to lock the knees, bending from the hips with a relatively straight, flat back, coming all the way down past the waist, and hanging here. Whew. Got some stuff going on in there. Just take a minute to let that settle. Letting gravity do a little unwinding. I'm going to go ahead and roll up nice and slow. Pressing through the feet. Stacking one vertebra on the next. Just checking in with everybody. Let's bring the arms up overhead and do a little counter stretching. And then again from the hips with a relatively flat back, coming on down, hanging here again, shaking out the neck, just letting gravity do some more unwinding. This time I'm going to bend the knees, swing the arms back, come into a counter stretch again, pushing the hips forward, lifting the chest, lifting the eyes. Come back to center and shake that out. Let's take a nice slow roll down. Again, still just checking in with the spine. Check in with the boots while I'm on the way down. Yep, they're all kitty wonkus like boots get. Just hang here again. I'm going to give myself a nice hug, pulling up in the waist, up in the pelvic floor, left elbow over right. Pulling these shoulder blades apart and rounding the spine. Just giving myself a nice hug. And then releasing all of that again from the hips all the way down toward the floor. Shaking that out. And lifting this time right elbow over left. Giving myself another hug. Got some ka-chunks in the shoulders there. Give them a nice squeeze. Everybody a good morning, and then one more time, folding from the hips, down toward the ground, just releasing all of that. Let's pull over to the left a little. I like to use the right arm on the left leg and kind of give that shoulder a little extra stretch, and then over to the other side, left hand on right leg, giving that left shoulder a little stretch. And then coming back to center, bend the knees, swing the arms back, coming into a counter stretch again, pushing those hips forward, shaking it out a bit. Got some congestion and queasiness, so I gotta give that a sec to settle. One of the main points of this exercise for me is just to check in with my body, make it a routine, which I have. I don't always do it, but I'm pretty much in the routine of doing it, and I can attest that it's the consistency, not always the quality of the endeavor. I suppose the quality makes a difference too, but showing up every day consistently and giving myself a little attention, even if some days it's not quite pushing myself as far as I can go, or some days I don't feel 100%, but it's the consistency of showing up and checking in with that over time definitely adds up to feeling better overall. I still have ups and downs, but the ups and downs are up here, and the thresholds of too low and too high get further apart, so that I have room to navigate within those thresholds without falling over any edges and spiraling into any pits of despair, which I still do now and then, but less when I show up regularly and give myself a couple deep breaths, some time to let go of stress. It's important to do every day if you can, maybe even 3 or 4 times a day. Let's do some shoulder shrugs on that note. It's an easy thing to add during any day, just breathing in, tensing up, and then just letting go. One of my favorite visualizations for this kind of letting go process is a pine cone. It's kind of prickly, so tensing up, bringing the shoulders into the ears, bringing the hands clenched, and imagining the prickliness of a pine cone in my hands, and then just dropping that pine cone. I like to imagine it's dropping into like a ditch or a little stream, and then just floating away. That's one of many visualizations that I enjoy using to help me let go of stress. Do you have a favorite visualization that helps you let go of stress? If you care to share, I sure would appreciate it. Let's do big arm circles. Breathing in on the way up, and then exhaling on the way down. You can add the knees. Scooping up love, filling the lungs and all the cells, and then just releasing all that. One more deep breath in, lifting the eyes, lifting the chest, and then releasing that. Let's go the other way. Breathing in. Sometimes it helps to make a nice sighing sound for me. One more this way. Shake that out. I'm going to step back with this left foot into a nice deep lunge, pulling the back hip forward, forward hip back, tipping the tailbone under, pressing that back heel into the ground, checking that my front knee is not crunching past the toes. Just enjoying that upright sensation for a few breaths, making sure not to crunch up in the shoulders, bringing those arms up. Let's bring those hands down to focus on the fingertips with sharp eyes, making sure to bring those shoulders back and down. And then I'm going to gaze at those fingertips with soft eyes, bringing my peripheral vision into unsharp focus, just noticing where I can notice, what I can notice. And then again, sharp focus on the tips of those fingers. And again, soft eyes, kind of gazing past the fingers, maybe all the way around the earth to see the back of my own head, but also noticing this peripheral vision. And one more time, sharp focus on the tips of my fingers, just noticing how that changes the quality of my perception. And then soft eyes, gazing out in the distance around the world to envision the back of my own head and noticing all that soft perception on the way. I'm going to bring those arms back up overhead and then push onto the diagonal line, pushing out that back heel through the spine, out the fingertips. And then I'm going to shift the back heel onto the closed diagonal, closing these hips. So I'm pulling this back hip forward even more and that forward hip back even more to explore this outside plane for a counter stretching side triangle aeroplane pose. It's a fancy name for it that I'm giving it. I'm going to slide this back foot out a little bit more in my unstretchy pants and bring this left hand down on the inside of that right leg. Lifting the right hand to gaze past those fingertips and giving a nice twisting side aeroplane triangle. I'm going to bring this around to reach for that hip, giving an extra twist. It's a good time to remind you you don't need a special outfit, and even if your jeans are unstretchy like mine are, you can still give yourself that consistent body check. Bring this hand around to the outside of that forward leg and then straighten that leg. Get that pillow out the way. And then folding the body over that front leg for a nice forward fold. Aiming my chin for my toes. Just enjoying that for a breath or so, and then I'm going to bring my weight onto my hands and bring that front foot back to meet the back foot and pressing through the palms, through the spine, tipping the tailbone toward the back of the head, pressing into the heels. Pressing the heart toward the earth, pressing the heels toward the earth, tipping the tailbone up and back, getting a nice stretch through lots of parts of the body. And then I'm going to squeak these feet back a little bit more and bring the body forward, lifting the chest through those shoulders, bringing the legs together, squeezing the butt and the heels together and letting the belly relax. Stretching the front of the body, lifting the eyes, stretch the tongue. In this position is a good finishing touch to that. I like to rock on the toes, kind of play with that stretch a little bit, and then I'm going to lift the hips again, pressing back through the palms of the hands, or the soles of the hands, through the spine, tipping the tailbone, pressing into those heels. I'm going to swing this left foot forward into a nice deep lunge on this side. And then stepping forward with that back foot into another forward fold and releasing with the hands, just letting the spine hang off the hips here. Giving that a breath or two to unwind. I'm going to roll up nice and slow, checking in with the spine again. Just stacking one vertebrae on the next. Noticing where it's still sticky, where it's suppler. I'm going to step back now with the right foot into another moderate lunge, pulling the back hip forward, forward hip back, tipping the tailbone under, relaxing the shoulders, pressing that back heel into the earth, checking that the front knee is not crunching past the toes, and bringing the arms up, making sure not to crunch up in the shoulders, still tipping that tailbone under. Looking for a nice upright sensation through the middle, kind of perpendicular lines, and then I'm going to bring these hands down, focusing on those fingertips, making sure to pull the shoulders down and back, and with sharp eyes, focusing on those fingers, and then with soft gaze, past the fingers, all the way around the universe to see the back of my own head, noticing that peripheral vision. And then again, soft eyes, focusing on sharp eyes, focusing on the fingertips, and then soft focus, gazing at the back of my own head around the universe, noticing what I notice. Pulling these hips in a little bit more. I just noticed that I wasn't doing that. Sharp focus again on those fingertips, and then I'm going to let my eyes go soft again and bringing those up and pressing onto the diagonal line through that back heel, through the spine, out the fingertips. And then crossing the hips, bringing that heel outside a little bit and exploring this outside plane. Just feeling into that closed hip sensation, and then bringing my right hand down on the inside of my left leg, bringing that left hand up to gaze past fingertips. And Enjoying a side twisting aeroplane triangle pose. Bring this hand around to reach for that hip and giving everybody a nice hug, little twist, little wringing out. And then unwinding all of that. Bring this hand on the outside of that left leg, straightening that leg and draping the body over that front leg, aiming my chin for my toes. Enjoying that forward fold sensation. Then bringing weight onto my hands, bringing that back foot back to meet the back foot and pressing again through the palms, through the spine, tipping the tailbone toward the back of the head, pressing those heels into the floor. Bend the right knee and press into the left a little more. Bend the left and press into the right. And pressing into the left. Pressing into the right. One more time, pressing into the left. And again, pressing into the right. And then pressing into both heels. Pressing the heart toward the earth. Tipping the tailbone toward the back of the head. I'm going to bring the body forward into a plank position. See if you can see me and I can see you. Keeping the elbows in close to the body, keeping the legs together. I'm going to come down nice and slow for one slow push-up. Holding at the bottom for a breath or so. And then pushing back up nice and slow. Let's do one more of those. Coming down nice and slow. Holding at the bottom. And then pushing back up. And lifting the heels. Pressing through the palms. Tipping the tailbone again. Pressing into the heels. And then swinging that right foot up with my unstretched jeans. Got this. You got it too. There's not one way. It's really never ends and you can't get it wrong. And step forward with that back foot. And hang here again in forward fold. Just letting the neck release, letting the spine unwind. Hanging the spine off the hips. Shake that out a little bit. We're going to bring hands down and step into a wider straddle and come down a little bit further. And then over to the left. First, kind of trying to keep my hips even. The temptation is to stretch to each side, but I'm going to start off trying to keep my weight even on both feet and just pull with the arms to one side and then the other, and then back to that side. Let's flick up with the left, giving a nice twist here. And back to center, and over to the right, and again a twist to that side. Gazing up past those fingertips. Coming back to center. And then making sure not to lock the knees. I'm going to roll up nice and slow in the straddle position. Just checking in with the spine again. Let's shake that out. And now let's do a little hip dipping. Dipping on the right. Lifting the left. Dipping on the left. Lifting the right. For me, that puts a stretch into the inner thigh. Again on the left and on the right and on the left. And then I'm going to walk these feet back together. Put the feet under the hips and do some hip slides. Keeping weight on both feet. Keeping the hips relatively parallel to the floor. Sliding over to the left. For me, that puts a stretch in the torso. Sliding over to the right. Sometimes you got to kind of pull that hip down at the end of that slide. Over to the left. Over to the right. And again to the left. And to the right. And now I'm going to push into that hip. So putting the stretch into the hip socket. Taking weight off the right. Pushing into the left. Taking weight off the left. Pushing into the right. Do be mindful and respectful of your own hip sockets. These are ball and socket joints, so it is possible to pop that ball out of the socket, which is not the good. Don't do that. Just, but one of the ways to keep that from happening is this kind of stretching and mindfulness, keeping that range of motion, keeping that articulation. Also just help your locomotion. I'm pressing into the right again, coming back to center. Let's do some little circles with the hands for good measure. Just checking in with the fingers. Doing some nice little circles and then the other way. Seeing how those little bones are doing today. Saying, hey, little bones, how you doing? Shake that off to the left and shake it off to the right. Shake it off in the shoulders. Shake it off through the butt. Let's shake it out in the legs. Coming back to center myself, bringing my attention into the bottoms of my feet. And then bringing my weight over to the right side and lifting this left knee toward left shoulder. Relaxing those shoulders. Let's give a little ankle rotation on this side and the other way. Let's have about medium circles from the knee. My unstretchy jeans are like, really, girl? You think you're going to do that stretch? No. No, jeans, I don't. Let's just do big circles instead. I can adjust. I'm flexible. And the other way. Adaptable. That's one of our greatest strengths. Adaptability, isn't it? I find it kind of cool. Setting that down, bringing my weight onto the left side and raising this right knee toward right shoulder. Again, tipping the tailbone under, relaxing that supporting side, relaxing the shoulders, and then let's do a little ankle rotation on this side, little circles, and the other way, and then some medium circles from the knee. Just checking in with the whole body. Seeing how we're doing today. I think we're doing all right. I'm feeling pretty good, really. Let's do big circles from the hip. And the other way. Just noticing how the two sides are different. How they work together to keep me upright, even when I make various size circles. Set that down. I can tell I don't got my clap snaps today. My hands are pretty sore, but that's okay. I'm going to just do them slowly. Then I do have them, don't I? I'm going to do a little body tapping to finish this off. So starting at the top of the head with the fingertips. It's just a way of dislodging stagnant energy, balancing the body's energy, and checking in with the body. It's actually an effective way to dissipate stress and widen the gap between your threshold, floor, and ceiling. Using fingertips on the top of the head and then coming down with 2 or 4 fingertips around the eye sockets. Kind of all around the tops of the eyebrows, outside of the eyes, under the eyes. And then 2 or 4 fingers under the nose, on the upper lip, and on the chin, and then on the chest. This one on the chest is great for reducing stress if you're feeling overwhelmed. Again, it can help dissipate stress and also raise the threshold of what you're able to adapt to before you spill over that threshold. I'm going to do some rigorous tapping / slapping on the arm joints because my arms tend to hold a lot of stagnation and inflammation. So just dislodging that, getting some flow back on the shoulders and the wrists and the elbows. These are the elbows and these are the wrists. I say to myself, oh, so close, but no. Let's come down the chest, checking in with the drum and all the organs, seeing if everybody's okay or anybody has something they want to say. Come down through the pelvis and the hips and the butt. I'm going to come down the front of the body with a relatively flat back. Nice and slow, checking in with the thighs, and checking in with the knees, checking in with the shins, and the ankles, and the toes, and hanging here in forward fold. Well, I come up the back of the body. I'm going to check in with the backs of the ankles, and the backs of the calves, and the backs of the knees, and then rolling up slowly, checking in with the backs of the hamstrings, legs, and the butt, and again the hips. Let's come all the way up the front of the body and do a little smoothing up the face and down the hair. It's just ways of bringing the body together into a cohesive unit of getting in flow, of letting go of stresses, making room for joys. I hope that whatever else you're doing, you're remembering to take care of you. Give yourself a little playful movement, a little stretching, maybe a little strengthening. I'm going to do my 100 any reps and a little inversion. I wish you a fabulous Tuesday. Alan, Russell, Mike, it's nice to see you. Thanks for stopping by. Don't forget to breathe and smile, or scowl and hold your breath, and let me know how that works out for you. Peace.